I'll just confirm that you're happy for me to be recording the interview. Okay, thank you. And can you state your name and position, please?
Nick Christensen, Deputy Editor of Mumbrella.
Okay, so we've got a speech sync issue, but we'll just cope with that for this experiment. Yeah, Nick, it's going to be quite a short interview, and I'm just going to be asking you a little bit about your own career background, but also later I'll be asking you a bit more about Mumbrella and the role of multimedia in a reporter's work for such an enterprise. So first up, can you just tell me your own career, potted history to date?
Sure. I've worked around the place, I guess, is a simple way of putting it. I started as kind of a producer at 2GB Radio back in the day, probably 2008, 2009, before getting a job at News Limited as a junior reporter at The Telegraph. From there, I went and worked at the Australian, and from there I got taken over and came across to Mumbrella, which is, I guess you call it an online digital upstart. It's only been around about 5 years, and basically as long as I've been a journalist and kind of reinventing the media and marketing space. When I was at the Australian, I was a media and marketing writer, and now I'm kind of doing the same thing here, but in a more senior role.
Great. Well, can you tell us just a little bit about Mumbrella and what it's, how it's structured and operates?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm sitting in the newsroom at the moment, and basically it's a team of 4 or 5 of us who kind of work on the editorial side of things. Do you want me to show you the newsroom?
Oh, please, if that's possible.
We can actually do that, so here we go.
Thank you.
Here's my colleague Megan, who's one of the senior journalists on the team.
Hey, Megan. I'm Mark.
There's Mark. There's Tim Burris, our editor-in-chief.
Hey, Tim.
Who's sitting over here.
How you doing?
Pearson from Griffith Uni. We've got our design team over here, Elka and Dave, who are working hard on a next week's edition of Encore magazine. And
you dropped the computer.
The choice of Skype. Sorry, class. Here's Brooke, the editor of Encore.
Yeah, our frame is frozen. So we've lost you. We've lost your picture for some reason.
Okay, minor technical problem.
Oh, we're back again. That's good. Well,
that's going to be interesting, isn't it? Well, I can't because my battery is about to die.
Okay.
Let me wander through.
Well, we'll jump straight into the questions. Thanks for the tour. And
I will actually do that just for the... Hold on, follow me and we'll go into the Mumbrella studio.
Okay,
Hold on, I need this. You can tell we're a very professional operation here.
This is getting better all the time. It's much more dynamic than the usual Skype interview.
All right, I'm taking yourselves in a different room. My apologies to the class. I forgot I was doing this, and therefore thought I'd do it from the room where I could actually charge. Can you still see me okay, Mark?
I can. Can you just get your head up a little higher for me? Yeah?
Yes, I can.
Great. Oh, that's good. Thank you.
All right, that'll do.
Yeah.
We'll just hope the battery will run out.
The students are working on multimedia reporting, and that can mean a whole lot of things to different people. I notice Mumbrella takes a fairly traditional media approach with a few little multimedia add-ons. Can you talk us through that?
Look, Mumbrella's really in a unique position, and when I was at the Australian, I was actually running the online desk there. And, part of the reason I took the job here is I found Mumbrella immensely frustrating as an enterprise. It's somewhere in between what you call trade press, so, writing about the ins and outs of a very small niche, and national press, because it breaks stories and kind of breaks out of that trade press paradigm. It positions itself as a blog, but with a national reach audience. And it's, I'd probably say, fairly unique within the Australian media landscape in that it gets to do that. And that's why, for me, as a traditional print journalist, it's an interesting place to be. In terms of its broader positioning, which I think is what you were kind of asking about and how it fits in with multimedia, the benefit of a blog is we're not a paper record. We don't have to cover everything. So each morning we'll get in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 8:30 we'll have a news meeting where we'll discuss what we're going to do. And we'll choose to not talk about certain issues and pick up other things and run with them and move the story forward. It's not the traditional model, which is confined by, we have to cover everything or we have to have a view. We choose what we cover, and we try and take on stories where we think we can add value. And, I know, having worked for the Telegraph or the Australian, you're actually in a much more challenged position where you have to cover, you can't miss something because your competitor might pick up on it. And we still have those challenges. I mean, this afternoon, one of our competitors had a story that I didn't have, and I spent the last 2 hours kind of scrounging and making sure that we were caught up to date, because that was an important story for us, but that's only because we've covered it in the past. We're in a unique position because we still get to play the blog card, if I can put it that way.
Well, as far as multimedia goes, do you have any sort of data or analytics that might tell you if you add something like a link somewhere, or perhaps a piece of, well, let's say vision like we're doing now, whether that proves popular or not, whether it's worth doing?
Yeah, one thing we have in the office, I didn't get to show you earlier, but we actually have a screen, and most online newsrooms will have that showing you how many people are on the site at any one moment. So we know what's rating well and what's not, and you have immediate feedback, which, coming from a newspaper background, you don't know how many people read your article. You just kind of put it out there and hope that people like it. With online, you have very clear feedback, both in terms of what you're actually seeing kind of via the Google Analytics, and that's usually what most newsrooms use. You also have social media, so you see, you see feedback in terms of what people are saying on Twitter or Facebook and all of those social mediums. And then you also have the comment thread. And I mean, the Mumbrella comment thread, if you've ever gone on and read it, can be a very vicious place. My appointment story got, people criticizing me, and you're like, oh, well, okay, it's good to know, good and bad. You hear it all. And we published a Dr. Mumbo, which is our diary column, earlier in the week, and the PR industry hated the piece, and there are about 60 comments trashing the piece because they've got angry. And so you do get that feedback in a variety of places, and this is, if you're an online journalist, you have to be you have to have a very thick skin to actually be prepared to kind of talk about that, and be prepared for that feedback, because it does come to you every day, both good and bad. I mean, often we'll get tips from commenters, we'll get a really interesting discussion going, and that's why I love Mumbrella. I mean, it's competitive advantage is that the discussion in the media and marketing world happens with us. It doesn't happen with our competitors. But sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad.
Okay, well, you're predominantly text. You're a good news writer, and that's where you got your street cred on the Australian. Do you think ever of multimedia add-ons to your text? So would you think of doing an audio interview or a video interview or something like that?
We do a bit, but most of us have a background in print and online. I always joke that, I've got a face for radio and a voice for print. And so these sort of Skype or conversations are a bit uncomfortable for me. We do a weekly Google Hangout, which I think we have mixed success with, and it's good from a kind of interesting discussion point of view. We do get some multimedia going. We often try and integrate video, but it's more, because we write about the advertising world, we will include YouTube clips and that sort of thing. So we're always looking for that extra element, and certainly I often have to run the news desk online here, or I used to run at the Oz. You're always looking for that value add, and when you're dealing with online, text is often not enough in the 21st century. You do need to have that extra element, and whether that's audio, whether that's visual, the audience looks for it, and the medium is built for it. So it's something we're trying to do, but it's very hard to be a great writer, a great video journalist, and a great radio journalist. You often can't do everything well.
Yes, well, no one's a jack of all trades, or very few would be. I guess there's also the production issue involved as well. If you are going to have to produce and edit, it all takes time, doesn't it? So what's your solution to that part of it?
That's one of the biggest challenges, and it's one we grapple with every day. I mean, from our side, we do, I guess, make a value choice of how much we can deploy. In the end, we are text-based, and we focus on our writing versus trying to, am I better off to spend the next day writing a 4,000-word feature or do a 5-minute video? I think for my audience, they would prefer the 5,000-word feature.
All right. Now, as far as a young student about to graduate, and you're an industry watcher, and we've had shrinkage in the industry over the last couple of years or so, what prospects are there with online startups like yours compared with mainstream media?
Look, there's no doubt it's a challenging time, Mark, and I'd say that across the board. The industry, certainly when you talk about traditional media, is not doesn't have as many positions as it used to. But I guess young graduates need to be recognising what they offer. A journalist of 20 years is not necessarily comfortable with social media, is not necessarily comfortable with the online environment. We've recently been hiring here, and we've been looking for graduates who have a clear understanding of video, have a clear understanding of the demands of online. You know, you don't have all day to write a story. If it breaks, you might have 10 minutes to get the first couple of paths up, because if you don't have it up, the other side will. And so it is that competitive, and new graduates need to understand that and need to kind of be leading the charge in the online space. That's their competitive advantage. And to be honest with you, there aren't that many people that do that well. So if you know that space well and are willing to push that side of things, that can be your competitive advantage in what is a market of, dare I say it, you know, and I'm on the record saying this before, too many graduates for not enough positions. If we talk about more generally the rules that have always apply today, you know, get experience in the newsroom, show you're keen. You know, we have an intern pretty much every day, and, you know, the good interns really mark themselves out because they come up with ideas, they show initiative, they're not looking for us to tell them what to do, and that's really important because, you know, it might not get you a job in this newsroom, it will get you a recommendation so that when you do go for a job, you know, myself or Tim, who you met briefly, will give you a recommendation that carries through across the industry. Those things are important.
All right, Nick, well, look, thanks very much. I promised you only a 10-minute interview or so, and I guess we've already gone over time, but good luck with Mumbrella.
Apologies for the technical difficulties of trying to work
No problem at all. I'll now see how I go with editing this little piece of footage and see how that works.
Yeah, let's see if we can edit out the bit where I dropped the iPad.
I think that adds to it. Thanks so much, Nick. All the best.
Pleasure, guys.